Walk with me to First Kings. First Kings, okay, chapter 19. I should have had this earlier. First Kings, chapter 19. Okay, well, I just want to, once again, I want to deal with, just use some scriptures to show you how God speaks. Okay? All right. Here is, if you had never read First Kings chapter 19, this is the story about Ahab, Jezebel, and Elijah. Okay? In the days of prophet Elijah, there was a lot of pagan worship, Baal worship. Every nation had its own gods. Okay, and their thinking was, whenever a violent storm came, some natural devastating event through the natural causes of the earth, earthquakes or whatever, they thought that their gods were angry or displeased with them. Okay, that's the background of where the people were at during that day. But the story unfolds. Jezebel has troubled Elijah. Jezebel is a dangerous woman. Even the spirit of Jezebel is dangerous of those who operate in that spirit. Okay, you must read the story. This woman she runs her husband. At the same time, she would do anything to make sure her husband is on top. Okay, she would do anything. Matter of fact, read the story. She has killed prophets. She's angry because there was a showdown on Mount Carmel with Elijah and God and her prophets of Baal. And of course, our God wins. Okay? She has threatened the prophet's life. Elijah runs. And while he's running from this wicked lady, he hits depression. What I would consider a form of depression. And he pleads to God to take his life. He now hides out in a cave. And God finds him there and questions him. And God asks him, "What are you doing here?" He knows that Elijah is feeling insecure about his calling. He knows that Elijah is running from Jezebel. And so when he asks Elijah, "What are you doing here?" Elijah begins to give God a list of complaints. And he blames it on the reason he ran away is because the Israelites are not doing what they're supposed to do. You got me trying to lead them and preach to them, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're breaking your covenants, they're breaking your laws. But that's not the truth. Instead of him saying who the real culprit was that made him run, which was Jezebel, he blames it on the children of Israelites. So God decides to deal with Elijah. Okay? And so Mount Horeb or Sinai is where the scene takes place. Mount Horeb is the same mountain where Moses encountered God in the fire called the burning bush, and you'll find that in Exodus chapter 3. But let's look at this. Let's read verse 11. And there you'll see that God tells Elijah to go out and stand on the mountain. Let's read that, verses 11 through 13. And God said, go forth. You with me? And stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, look at this, the Lord passed by. That is very key. Now he's on the same mountain as Moses was on. Look at the parallel. Look at the similarity. The Lord passed by. Okay? Moses was on the mountain. And Moses wanted to see God's glory. And you know that no man can look upon God and live. You just can't do it. The radiance, you can't do it. And so God told him that just get under the cliff. And when I pass by, I'll show you the backside of my glory, what you can handle. Okay? So here's God doing it again. The Lord passed by, and a great strong wind rent or tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But here's the key. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake came. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. That's it. I'm going to get there. Verse 12. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. In verse 13, and it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him. See? And a voice came unto him. What are you doing here, Elijah? Now, here's the revelation to this. The Bible says that when God, after all God demonstrated his power, okay, after he demonstrated his power, there was a still small voice. Okay? Now remember, earlier I mentioned that when we speak and listen, there is a spiritual effect. Okay? But here is the key. It kept saying God wasn't in it. In other words, after the storm, after God demonstrated his power, what that is showing you is that there was silence. That's why it says, and God wasn't in it. There was silence. Okay? God didn't say a word. And what that means is the calmness after the storm, after the calmness of the storm, after the storm is over, after the storm has raged, and then there's this calmness after the storm, the quietness. It says that then Elijah came out of the cave. So what I want to show you through here is sometimes silence can speak. Silence can be just as powerful as words. And it says, then when he came out the cave, he said he heard. Read it. Okay? And so it was when Elijah heard. Okay? And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after fire, a still small voice. That was the quietness of God. That was the silence of God. And in verse 13, and it was so when Elijah heard, now he's speaking. Okay? That he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, what are you doing here? Okay? You understand this. Elijah did not respond. Did not respond to God asking him what he was doing there the first time. So God had to demonstrate. He spoke through his through the earth. He spoke through the earth. He spoke through the fire. He spoke through the wind. He spoke through the earthquake. Okay? Then Elijah came out. And then that's when, because of the quietness. And then when he came out, then God spoke to him and asked him, what are you doing? Here's the key point. Elijah still gave a complaint. He still was listing complaints. And here's what God did. He gave Elijah instructions. Now, listen to that. He gave Elijah instructions, verses 14, 15, 16, told him what to do. Instructions means that you have to hear, and then you have to listen. Mean you have to understand to follow. So this narrative is not so much about how God speaks to us. It's more about why God did not say anything.